everyone. I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 206 with Jasmine. Um, we're trying to get this to work. So, what I've been reading is A Red Flamer by Mike Corrado, which is a graphic memoir about his growing up queer. And it is a beautiful book. As you can see, the blurb here, if you can see, it says this book will save lives, which it certainly will. Hello, Jasmine.
Hello.
We did
We did
it.
it. I don't know what was happening.
I don't know. Instagram Live is blah. Anyway, it is what it is. It's lovely to see you.
It's good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. I'm
Mhm.
excited because you're going to read two poems, right?
I am. I didn't know if you wanted me to read them back to back or if we want to save one for later.
It's really up to you and your comfort. So whatever you prefer is fine by me.
Well, why don't I read the Where I'm From one
Okay.
first, and we can save the other one for after we chat.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So I titled the poem "I Am from Low Expectations and Defying the Odds Anyway." And let's get into it. I'm from chanclas y batas, old school salsa and freestyle, like Willie Colon and TKA. From standing on dad's feet, dancing to blue magic, finding joyous moments to be free. I'm from the closet of a modest one-bedroom apartment, from elevated 4 and subterranean D trains, from bus passes and Dominican cabs. I'm from adobo y sazon yellowing my hands, from sofrito, from the food of la isla del encanto. I'm from games and good times, double dutch, uno, chess, trouble. I'm from free school lunch and government cheese, from surviving domestic violence and alcoholism, from below the poverty line. I'm from you love your family no matter what. I'm from washing floors with agua florida, from burning sage to ward off evil. I'm from God don't like ugly, lighting velas on our altar to honor the saints. I'm from the advice head on a swivel, always be aware of your surroundings. From the lesson, si no se acuestan contigo ni te pagan tu renta, entonces no tiene opinión, which means if they don't sleep with you or pay your rents, then they don't get to have an opinion. I'm from strong moral values, from taking care of family and patients at the height of the AIDS epidemic, from marches and protests, from loving without borders or limits, from the memories of Titi Sasa, Titi Boom Boom, and Tio Julio, built con fuerza. I'm of Leo and Libra, fire and air, learn and unlearn. I'm from unabashedly walk with purpose and head held high, from believing a spick meant a sophisticated Puerto Rican in control. I'm bred from New Yorkers, Alphabet City, and the boogie down Bronx, the birthplace of hip hop. I'm from contradictions and intersections, from independentistas and staunch USA lovers, from buried histories and freedom fighters. I'm from scratched up records, from faded family photographs held together by plastic sheets, from moments captured on a camcorder taken well before I could appreciate them. I'm from the dog-eared pages of Langston's poems, and from the tear-stained stories, a younger version of me bled into dozens of composition notebooks, showing I was meant to do more than just survive.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So what was it? So much of it takes me there's so much of it, even though our lives are so different, that makes me think of my own life, which is what's so powerful about these poems, is how connected we all are. But what was it like for you writing it?
I think at first I had to figure out what the parameters were that I was
Mm,
putting around the poem.
mhm.
I'm in
Yeah.
my 40s, so I'm from a lot of things and
Yeah.
experiences
Yeah.
over the years that kind of make me the utterly flawed and complicated human that I am. So I could have made it really broad, but when I thought about what was the core of me, it really came from my parents, it came from my chosen family, and it came from the neighborhood that I grew up in the Bronx in the 80s and 90s. So I really focused the poem on my childhood, which was very different from the poem that I wrote a few months ago that's about a bit about where I'm from that
Yeah.
we'll read in a little while. And I think it's really different because the prompts and the format you gave were really interesting because it forced me to focus on the small details
Mm-hmm.
that I likely wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. So, for example, thinking about the foods and the seasonings, thinking about the smells of my childhood, like sage and agua florida,
Yeah.
and all the sayings from my family, like God don't like ugly. Um, and and it was an interesting process too because I also felt really compelled to be as authentic as I possibly could, and that meant making the poem well balanced. And by well balanced, I mean my childhood had many beautiful moments that I cherish, but it wasn't all roses,
Sure.
and the hardships shaped me as well,
Mm-hmm.
and arguably had an even bigger impact on who I became. And so hopefully you felt the balance
Mm-hmm.
of that in the poem as well.
Yes, I did for sure. And I think that's something I often grapple with because I write one a year. I have to kind of find the light sometimes. I have to because those the darker moments, especially I think as a grown up in therapy, those are the things I'm talking about and thinking about. So I have to give space to all the beauty that and then the quotes about the natural world really helped me because that was my comfort and solace. So, but there were also lots of other good things. But it's just interesting how, the things that we really remember oftentimes are those things that were difficult.
Yeah, I mean, they say that it takes 10 good things to
Mhm.
happen to
Yeah.
counteract one
Mhm.
trauma.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting what sticks. The body really does keep score.
It does,
Um,
unfortunately. I don't know if you've seen that meme that's like, can I have a body that doesn't keep the score? I'd like a different one, because it does. Um, and things that I don't know if you've had this experience, but things that I didn't even cognitively remember, until later, my body definitely did and would respond to stimulus accordingly.
yeah.
Um, and I couldn't understand it because I would think, why is this making me so upset? Or
Hmm.
why do I feel trapped? Because it reminded me of something that I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Um, and it's
That's
kind of
very real.
amazing. Yeah, it's real. It's very real. When you don't understand it, or when I didn't, I felt crazy. So it was nice as I began to understand it that there is reasoning. Your
Yeah.
body is trying to protect you.
Yeah.
Um, so agua florida is such a smell.
Yeah. It is,
It's
it is,
just
it's a
and
very
sage.
distinct smell.
Yeah.
The closest that you come to it is kind of that Catholic church
Hmm.
smell.
Yeah.
If you remember the smoke from a
Yeah.
Catholic church, if folks have been to one, it's kind of as close to it as you can
Yeah.
get.
I was like, yeah, if that had been around when I was a kid, that would have been in my poem too, because it is like, and it sticks with you, you know,
Yes.
it's in you.
Yeah.
So,
I still have a
well,
bottle on the shelf.
oh yeah, I kind of. Do you have an altar, or you just have it on the shelf?
I have an altar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very sacred.
Yeah, I think it's important to me to honor my ancestors
Yeah,
and the people in my life who have departed. And so, I'm not very religious, but I am spiritual, and I do
mhm.
think that they stay with us in some way. Like,
I think so too.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I wish that I'd had a tradition like Dia de los Muertos, like that I had grown up with something like that because I grew up just waspy, and so there was no real, or even like sitting Shiva, some sort of custom or tradition, or
a
because
ritual.
yeah,
Yeah,
a ritual. Yeah, because when my brother died, it was like there wasn't anything built in like that, and so
yeah,
it's hard.
yeah,
It's always hard no matter what, but it's nice to have some ritual to
yeah.
deal with
They
grief.
provide some comfort.
Yeah.
And so, we would always light candles and we'd,
Mhm.
click the rosaries and do the
Yeah.
prayers. And and those kinds of things. But it's always hard to lose someone, whether you've got those
Oh,
rituals or not.
absolutely.
Like, I'm sorry about your brother.
Oh, thank you. One of my friends who also lost her brother, Dia de los Muertos is her favorite day of the year, and it's been years
Mhm.
since he died, but she has a very um, specific ritual that she every year she does, and it's
That's beautiful.
special to her. And it's special to me that she shared it with me because I felt like, oh, we're
Yeah.
that's what's so good about sharing these things, not just these poems, but stories in general, is it helps us feel less isolated and alone.
Yeah, we feel interconnected.
Yes.
And I think, one of the things that, most people want is a sense of safety and a sense of belonging. And, having, knowing that we're all experiencing that connects us.
Yeah. Because everyone is experiencing grief.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you want to talk about where you grew up in the Bronx?
Yeah, well, you can always get me to talk about the Bronx.
I find that people from the Bronx like to talk about it, in my
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. There's something about the Bronx that's really special, and it's one of the most diverse counties in the U.S. It's the most diverse county in New York City. It's the birthplace of hip hop and has a really vibrant art scene. I grew up near Yankee Stadium on the Grand Concourse, which used to be called the Park Avenue of the
Mhm,
Bronx because it's this huge 8-lane street. Um, and it's got these beautiful Art Deco buildings from the
mhm,
1920s, the 1940s that run up and down it. And I grew up in one of those. Um, and it's an area that's associated with, how do I put this, with working class grit,
mhm,
with
mhm,
resilience, with cultural innovation, um, and and it's produced outsized contributions globally, even to like music and sports and arts, despite the poverty and the disinvestments and the housing struggles and the crime
mhm,
that still exist in these neighborhoods.
mhm,
Um, but I loved where I grew up because of all of the diversity. One of my
mhm,
favorite stories is the building that I grew up in was pretty big. It was 3 buildings attached
mhm,
by
mhm.
a lobby, and it had 99 apartments in it.
Wow. Mhm,
And it had people from all walks of life. And my mom was, a little community organizer. Like she always wanted everybody in the building to know each other and, make sure we were, village driven.
mhm,
Everybody watched out for each other's kids. But on Sundays, everybody would cook their traditional foods.
mhm,
Um, and then we would trade food. And if you were lucky as a kid, you get to be in the kitchens with mostly the moms and the grandmas and even great grandmothers and learn how to cook these foods. And so I developed a palate for world cuisine decades before I could afford to go to restaurants, from like Vietnamese to
Yeah,
Chinese
yeah.
to Thai to Brazilian, Belizean, Jamaican, Trinidadian, Mexican, Italian. And so all of these folks would come together and really teach each other about each other's customs and food. And what I found was that we all appreciated each other because of our differences, and it wasn't that we tolerated each other. We really had an appreciation for each person's culture. And that made me a really deeply empathetic kid, like and person, and I always took that with me.
I mean, it sounds amazing. So
It was
good
awesome.
for good for your mom and your community. I would have been very interested in that, as would my children, because we love food, all the food. But also just to be in a place like you say that's diverse and you're appreciating that, and instead of tolerating it is really the point. And I live in a diverse place and I am incredibly grateful for it. And part of the reason I live here is because of that. Because I could go live with a bunch of white people. There's sure a lot of places where you could do that, but I feel like I'd be missing something
Yeah,
if I
I
did that.
Yeah, like and it was, to be balanced again.
Hmm, yeah.
It was hard to survive in one of the poorest
Oh, for sure.
places in the
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah.
Um,
And like you say, the
and
divestment, I think it's so important to use that word because that is the
yeah,
essential wrong of what's going on there. It doesn't need to be like that.
it doesn't. It doesn't. But even in that hardship, like I mentioned this to you in my email. I wouldn't be who I am without having grown up in that hardship.
Yeah.
And I always say, my resume, I'm retired now, but I had a career in corporate America for 25 years.
Mm.
And I always say, I'm a first generation college student. So like, and I worked full time during college and grad school. So my resume got me in the door. But
Sorry.
what,
I don't know why my phone rang. I had everything turned off, but it still rang. Sorry about that.
no, we couldn't tell.
I'm like, go away.
It just looked
So,
like your hand went like this.
okay, good. Please continue.
Yeah, no. So I would say my resume got me in the door, but what really made me successful as an HR leader and in the legal space and the risk management space was my ability to be intuitive,
Mhm.
and to know how to read people and to understand how to assess dangerous situations. So then, when you're assessing danger, then anything else below that, you can
Yeah.
you can certainly anticipate risk. And it gave me the ability to read the room and know how to de escalate and know how to negotiate. And it served me really well. And I always say my dad, um, he used to walk me down the block as a kid. And by the time we got to the end of the block, I was supposed to tell him what I saw, what situations were happening, what people were up to, because people were always up to something.
Mhm.
And even down to be able to tell him what drug someone was on.
Mhm.
This was the 80s when, crack cocaine was very prevalent in poor
Yep.
communities around the country. The Reagan administration was criminalizing the sick rather than treating it as a public health crisis.
Mhm.
But as a child who had to walk myself to and from school,
Mhm.
by myself, it was really important that I understood the dynamics of the neighborhood that I was
Mhm.
in. And so that really prepared me to assess any situation that I'm in. And so when I entered corporate America as a woman of color,
Mhm.
particularly in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was in rooms with predominantly
Sorry.
white
Yeah.
men.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
And I had to learn how to navigate those spaces.
Mhm.
And those spaces were dangerous as well, but there was nothing compared to what I grew up in. And so it allowed me to excel,
Good
in
for
those
you,
spaces.
Jasmine, because I mean, there's lots of people who grow up in those situations who are not able to to alchemize it in the same way that you
Mm,
were, because the reality is when we are growing up in places that are unsafe for whatever, for a multitude of reasons, sometimes we can't because of the trauma that we live through.
yeah.
So I want to say to you, um brava, that is no small achievement to continue to excel in a world that is not supporting you in that
Yeah.
quest. So I wish this wasn't the world we lived in, that
Yeah.
people had to this kind of like idea that grit is necessary, because it's really only necessary for certain groups of people. Other
Yeah.
groups of people don't need any. Just do whatever. They're
Yeah.
successful, or successful. So you did something um, very special.
I feel like I did, and I don't want to lean into the notion of exceptionalism. There are so
No, I
many
get that.
people who come from situations like I did,
Yeah.
and excel.
Yeah.
And it was, I didn't do it on my own. It was the
No,
community
we
as
never
well
do.
that saw something in me. So
Yeah.
even as young as, I was in fifth grade and I was in chess tournaments because my dad had taught me how to play chess by the time I was 3.
Wow.
And I had an opportunity to go to nationals, and we couldn't afford it. And the neighborhood really stepped up, and they did bake fairs, and they took donations, and they sold chocolates, and they got McDonald's to sponsor us. And I was able to have this opportunity to go to, a national chess championship in Tennessee, and I had never left the state, and I
Yeah.
was 10. And I got to see the way that other people live, and I got to see rural areas. And it really opened my eyes to what some of the possibilities were in the
Yeah.
world that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened in high school. I was doing debate tournaments because I was a very nerdy kid, so chess and then debate. I,
Nerds are great.
I was definitely a nerdy kid. Um, and I was, the neighborhood again stepped up and they were like, Jazz, we see something in you and we're going to support you. And, they rallied to get the money to send me on my first plane ride to Emory University for the summer to, see what college life was like and to prepare for these debate tournaments and things. And that experience really solidified for me that I wanted to go to university because it wasn't a given, coming from my neighborhood and then not having the funds that
Mhm.
I would get to go to college. And that experience was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
And I applied for, back then you didn't have the internet as much. And so
No.
you had these books of like,
Yep.
scholarship
Yep.
like applications and things.
Hmm.
And, I applied to over 100 scholarships and I got 13 of them. And that's
Yeah.
how I was able to go to college.
Yeah.
But the neighborhood, really cheered me on. I've seen the neighborhood sometimes take children and spit them out.
Yeah.
Like, and I was very lucky that the people surrounding me were like, "You can do this," and and I was able to. So
Well, I think also you can circle back to the community that your mom was invested in
yeah,
her time and energy in, because
yeah,
that's the power of community, right? Is that we hopefully do lift one another up and are there for each other. And it's hard to ask for help,
yeah,
and it's essential to have it. So it's a lifetime journey for me to be able to ask for help. I'm much better than I used to be. Um,
it gets
do you,
easier with time.
it does, and I think I just started to understand better that I like to help people.
Mhm.
I don't feel angry or bitter or put upon when someone needs help. So I need to know that people feel the same way when I ask for help. But it just
Yeah,
feels very vulnerable, and I think also anyone who grew up in a situation where being vulnerable was unsafe, um, you don't want to do that.
yeah.
So you just kind of, but you can't be an island. So
Yeah, and we've learned, in more recent years, and I think with therapy being much more
mhm.
mainstream now,
Yeah,
that vulnerability is a strength.
it
Like,
is.
and being able to allow people to see what you're feeling also invites them to sit in that space with you and to be
Yeah,
able to support you,
yeah,
rather than keeping them out. And so I've really appreciated, especially the last couple of years, us talking particularly about Black mental health,
yeah,
and ensuring that our people of color are getting the support that they need, and watching communities really change the way they look at therapy as a tool, so that it can help people, surpass their trauma,
yeah.
and even, think about ways to better themselves, once they've processed all of that.
Hmm. And to break cycles, you
Yeah,
know.
generational curse breakers.
Yeah, yeah,
It's what we all hope to be.
yeah. So you got to do the work
Yeah,
if you're interested in that. It doesn't magically happen, though. That
yeah,
would be nice. But magic sounds lovely. So anything else, Jasmine? I want to make sure that I know you're going to read another poem, but is there anything else that you would like to say or that we
Um,
missed?
Anything else? Um, no, not really. I think for me, especially the last couple of years, as I mentioned, I was in corporate America for a long time.
Mhm.
I became disabled. And so, I don't necessarily have the ability to work, those 80-hour weeks
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
Hmm.
And that's another thing that I think folks don't talk about as much is disability.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and we've got a huge amount of folks in the world with disability in the US in particular, and many of us with invisible
Hmm.
illness. And so as I've, this last year said, you know what, like, what can I do? Um, I can't do what I used to do. What can I do to contribute to society? I decided to try my hand at being a writer, which was something I always wanted to do since I was a kid. Um, and I write a lot about disability and social issues like mental illness and domestic violence and sexual assaults and addiction and those kinds of things because I think in a day and age where we're seeing the rise of censorship and book bans, it's really important to affirm the universality of our stories,
Hmm.
and to make sure that our voices are being heard. And so I appreciate you giving me this opportunity because it means I get to put some of my writing out in the world.
You're so welcome. I mean, it's my privilege. And you were a fellow and you were at that when we were trying to coordinate this. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what you were doing there? Or?
Well, yeah, I'm happy to. So, as I said, I started writing about a year ago.
Amazing.
I just
Good for you.
I decided to try throw my hat in the ring
Yeah.
for a couple of fellowships that help emerging writers, and I got the Pen America Emerging Voices Fellowship. And so or rather, their workshop, and I was
Hmm.
able to work with them on my poetry. And then I was at the Lambda Literary Fellowship retreat as well,
Hmm.
where they focus on LGBTQ voices, and I'm queer, and so we called it Big Queer Summer Camp,
Yeah.
when we were focused on our writing,
Yeah.
and these are places that are really helping underrepresented voices in publishing,
Yeah.
really understand the industry landscape and get their writing to the
Yeah.
level where we can get published.
Hmm. It's wonderful. I don't know if you saw my little thing at the beginning, but I just read this Flamer by Mike Corrado, which is a graphic memoir
Ah,
about him grappling with his queerness. And it's a great book, and I'm reading it for a conversation about banned books because it is a widely banned book, and it is always disheartening that some of the best books are the ones that are the banned books. Basically, I just look at that list for books to read because
yeah. Because we know those are the books that are going to be the most provocative, the most
yeah,
authentic, the most
yeah.
pushing the envelope on societal norms. Um, and it's important that we support as many banned books as we can right now.
Yes, and it's just, yeah. So I'm grateful for your writing and that you decided to do this and that you are receiving support from these incredible organizations. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's been really humbling and a really beautiful experience to find a new community
Yeah.
in this way.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah.
And in the comments, woo for Big Queer Summer Camp was,
I
which I
see that.
agree. That sounds fun.
Some house and disco.
Yeah, seems appropriate.
Yeah. All right.
So
So
yeah.
I guess I can read the other poem.
Okay.
Um, and it's called "They Said I Was Meant for Nothing." They said I was meant for nothing, but I sprang from floor shine shoes, slacks creased down the middle, a button-down dress shirt, large pink brown lips, high yellow with a fro. Hail from a slick back black ponytail, tight blue jeans, badass kicks, logo t-shirt, big almond ebony eyes and skin, Indian hair, and a toothy grin. come from corner bodegas, housing project tenement buildings, elevated trains and subways, back alleys, dominoes, and spades. Ride for Alphabet City, the Boogie Down Bronx, the LES, Grand Concourse, Christ the King, Dodge, y La Isla Borinquen. Sing unabashedly to Blue Magic, Marley, Billy, Buddy, Biggie, El Gran Gambo. Dance to the sounds of Motown, reggae, jazz, blues, hip-hop, y salsa. Inhale the words of Espada, Alvarez, Angelo, Rich, Walker, Coleman, Lord, Wheatley. Exhale the influences of Campos, Moreno, Camacho, Burgos, Clemente, Miranda. I stand on the backs of the forgotten, unseen, battered and broken, resilient and resounding laymen and legends, mothers and entrepreneurs. Imbued with grace, compassion, forthrightness, cage creature anthems erupt from pages inked con mi sangre. Melodies of fight, flight, and freedom rise like heated air, combat the vitriol, consumerism, hoarding of wealth and resources. We are worthy of a glimmering future. I dare to dream loudly anyway. Rewrite history until it's mine. I desire empathy to be more valuable than gold-backed dollars. Billionaires reimagined, made from counting the lives they've enriched. Heroes of everyday people bartering with kindness. I crave love stitched into our DNA, pores divulging vulnerability, backdrafts of teary confessions, apologies, and regrets met by genuine forgiveness, paving a virtuous new road. I envision mass emergence from exoskeletons too small for our expanse, a fearless existence, birds in sky in formation, earthworms inching towards sunshine. Born poor, queer, black, Latinx, female, I am made of revolutionaries who don't back down. Thank you.
Mhm. That was beautiful and so powerful, and I wish I wish for that future, where we had a different definition for wealth. Um, that would be makes me cry just think about it because it's like so not where we are right now. It's difficult. Um, so thank you for using your words to like to help call that into reality.
I think it's, the more that we say it, the more that we push for it, the more that we fight
Mhm.
for it, hopefully it will become our reality in the future.
Yeah.
Um, we've got to take it day by day.
Yeah, that's the only way to actually do it.
Well, one foot in front of the other.
Because otherwise it's like just too much,
Yeah,
like you just gotta each day. And these poems and knowing that I'm going to speak with someone and hear their story helps me.
yeah. Well, you're helping all of us. We've got so many
Oh,
people who, I've listened to so many of these, and it makes me feel connected. It makes me feel
oh,
less alone. And so you're doing your part and your service to all of us. So
oh,
thank
thank
you.
you. That means a lot. Truly. So,
Now you're
I'm
making me cry.
I'm sorry, I'm very emotional. I am like a very emotional person.
It's okay.
And
I get teary all the time.
oh,
So
I'm like when I was a kid, I got made fun of a lot for it. But it somehow didn't stop me from crying, which is interesting. Like I just got more secretive, but I didn't like shut it down because I'm sure you know people I do who got made fun of and then they never cried again.
yeah, yeah. I had an experience like that where I didn't cry for almost a decade,
Yeah,
um, because
yeah,
life just got so
yeah.
hard, that it was, you got made fun of, you got
Oh yeah.
called soft,
Yeah.
like, those kinds of things. And once I found my tears again, though, surprisingly, I felt stronger.
I think there is power in it. Like,
Yeah,
um, it's, I mean, what's there to be ashamed? It's so wild to me that I'm supposed to be ashamed for feeling things. Like, it's the most human thing in the world. And yet, um, and usually I was crying about other people, rarely about myself. I mean, because
yeah,
that's usually how it works when you're a kid. It's like, oh my God, this thing happened. It's, oh no.
yeah,
Um,
We're
I
born
know.
with inherent empathy, and
Yeah.
it's, society pushes it out of us. And so, you were able to hold on to that, and that's a really special thing.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to my little selves. They did a lot of really amazing things,
Yeah.
you know. It's nice to reconnect with them and be like, you did a lot of good stuff. I know we weren't perfect, but we got
Oh.
here.
I was
So
just in a writing class right before this, and it was like write a letter to yourself, write the letter that your childhood self needed to hear.
yeah.
So I was blubbery right before I got on here too. Like writing the letter, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the ugly
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. And it's kind of amazing sometimes when you think about those parts of yourself, like, man, they were tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're in there one day at a time. Thank you for your time and your words, Jasmine. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to see where your writing takes you. I know
Thanks.
it'll be somewhere wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see you've got to put an anthology together at some
I know,
point.
I know. I need help though. I can't do it by myself. I'm
No, and
realistic.
and this is when you ask for help.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that's
and
true.
and there's so many of us. I'm raising my hands now that would be willing to help you.
Okay, thank you. Um, and for anyone who's watching, if you would like to join me, please, you can get my email from Jasmine, or you can just email me. It's on my website. Please join me. I would love to hear your stories. So thank you, everyone who joined us, and thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye
bye.
bye.